Not a lot of you know what passive voice is. Let's talk about it. With the release of Alchemized, I've been running into the term passive voice a lot and what passive versus active voice is. So that's something I wanted to touch base with you all on today. Now, besides Alchemized, this is something that's really prevalent in Elantris too by Brandon Sanderson. And passive voice is why I think we see a lot of people either loving or hating both of these books with not a lot of in between. Now, passive voice is when the grammatical structure of the sentence is going to be receiving the action, as opposed to what we usually see in fantasy, active voice, where the subject actively carries out the action. A great example of this is with active voice, we would say something like the child punched the dog, whereas in passive voice, we would say the dog was punched by the child. Now, active voice is going to be preferred for most fictional books, especially in fantasy and science fiction, because it demonstrates clarity. It helps you understand what the author is trying to get across and makes it simple for the reader. In complex stories like fantasy, we want people drawn in quickly so we can move the plot along. That's why you're mainly going to see active voice. Now, passive voice is a lot more divisive. Passive voice is something that's very hard to do because you are basically asking more out of your readers than you already are in this thick tome of a fantasy book. If it's done well, though, what the author is able to do is create a specific mood for you as a reader. It's going to set a darker, more glooming atmosphere, which is something we want in a book like Elantris or even in Alchemized. We see this a lot in war stories. This is something that's really hard to pull off and make you still feel like you're reading a fantasy novel as opposed to a journalist writing a column in a newspaper. But a masterful author can make this work. And for a lot of people, it's going to work, whether they know they're reading passive voice or not. There's something in the back of our minds telling us that something feels off. And sometimes that's the mood we're going to want for these books. You want to be uncomfortable. You want this sense of dread, especially in Alchemized, right? This only adds to the story. Another reason an author would use a passive voice is to give you a sense of helplessness. Withholding information leaves the reader wondering. It leaves you with a sense of dread, not knowing what's going to happen next. It creates emotional detachment for the subject in the story, and that creates a whole different characterization for what we would have with that character if it was done in active voice. Now, while passive voice in fiction should be used thoughtfully and sparingly, it's a really great literary device if done well. It can enhance the mood of the story, deepen the characterization, and add subtle layers of the narrative that slowly unravel over time, making it such a beautiful story when it all works. Now, I think the most popular great uses of passive voice are in Elantris and recently in Alchemized. If you're curious, read them. Know that it's passive voice. Understand that going in, and you're going to have a new perspective on the story.